All right, this is lesson 1 for Thursday, the 18th of June. We have one more phrasal verb in the P's, and that is put on. All right, we put on clothing, right? We can put on a happy face when we're not in a good mood or sad or something. We can put on a face that tells the world that, oh, you look fine, but maybe you're not. But the world thinks you're fine, right? Sometimes we might put on a show. Our children love to do this. They love to sing or dance for mommy and daddy. They're going to put on a little show. So it's another use of put on. All right, we're going to move to some R's. Run into. Seems like we had this one the other day in one of the articles we read. We run into the garage wall with the car, and we make a hole in the garage wall. I actually did that when I was a teenager learning how to drive. I've never forgotten it either. That's something that hopefully doesn't ever happen to any of us, but run into something physically. We run into people, though, sometimes. I might see you in the grocery store, and I would say, oh, I ran into Sue today at the store, or whatever. So that's another way that we use run into, by meeting somebody unexpectedly. All right, run over. Unfortunately, that one is not a very pleasant idea, as in running over something with our vehicle or our bicycle, okay? The lawnmower might run over a rock. So anything that's moving that goes over something, usually unintentionally just goes over something, that's when we use run over. Another way that we would use run over, and this is a little more vague, is to practice something. If you were getting ready for a class presentation, as you did when we were meeting together, and I suggested to you and your partner, you might want to go out in the hallway and go over. I might have used the phrase go over your presentation. I could have said you might want to run over your presentation. That simply means to rehearse. To rehearse. All right. And the next one. Run away. This one is pretty literal, okay? Usually, if someone runs away, it is, unless it's a game, unless you're playing a game, someone running away is unexpected. And it may be more in the idea of escape, which would not be maybe a very good idea for running away. We do call people who leave home, and quite often this is a tragic thing that happens with some teenagers where they want to escape their home environment. They want to really escape life. They run away from home. It means that they leave, and they try not to leave a trace, and they find various methods to perhaps travel quite some distance. Very scary, very tragic thing that occurs. But I want you to know that, I'm sorry, I made that Y funny. We would call those kids runaways. So you might see, a sign. Have you seen this child? They have run away. Or if it's numerous pictures, runaways and their names, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Please be on the lookout for these people. All right. Next we have run out. Okay? When we run out of something, we have none of it left. I have run out of milk. Would you please go to the store? I could even say, I've run out of milk. Would you run to the store and get some for me? I don't literally mean run to the store. I mean go. That's one way of running out. The other way of running out is to leave. I'm going to run out for a few minutes and check on our neighbor. So kind of two kind of different ways. One, when there is nothing left of a particular item and we need more perhaps, we've used all of it. And the other one, we're going to run out and do something, which doesn't physically mean run. It just means we're going to go by whatever methods. All right, we'll do just a few S's and then we will move on to something else. All right, send back. How about this? We're in the S's already. Yay. Send back, send something back. It means we're going to return it. Okay? Usually that's by mail or UPS, something that we have to return to the store. All right, set up. Set, not sit in this case. There is sit up, okay? Set up though, all right, means to arrange or organize, okay? I'm going to set up the backyard for the picnic. I'm going to get everything in order. Now this next one will be kind of funny because it is to set someone up. This one is a little bit hard to describe. If I'm going to set someone up, I'm going to kind of trick them. So let's just say that I want to have a little surprise party for my husband for his birthday. And I will say to him, I think that we are out of bird food, bird seeds. And the bird feeders are empty. Would you go to Home Depot and get some bird seed for me? Okay? Because I need to get him out of the house so that while he's gone, I put the balloons up and I quickly fix the table and, some friends come from the neighbor, some neighbors come in, okay? And when he returns, there will be this surprise for him, all right? So I have set him up. I have sent him to do something while I prepare this party. I've tricked him. We can also do it kind of as a trap. So we have trick, which I just described. And then we have trap. And that one's not so good. Trick, trap, trap. Because if we trap someone, then usually we probably mean them, we might mean some harm to them. We want someone to fail. We want someone to get in trouble. And we arrange things so that they will be caught. all right? So that's not such a good one. Certainly it can be done in a fun way. Maybe our children do it with, their friends or their siblings, but sometimes it could be very serious to set someone up in such a way as to put them in a trap and to make them look like they are guilty of something that's not very, what's the word? Not very acceptable. Okay? A little bit of an unusual phrasal verb. All right, we'll stop with phrasal verbs right here. We made some good progress, and I hope that some of these you will use right away. As I always say, try using it today. The sooner you use it, the more comfortable you'll have with using it a second time. All right, I see that we have about 9 minutes left on this segment, so I'm going to begin the next part, and then we'll continue that for parts 2 and 3. So what we are going to talk about for the next couple of sections, and this I think will probably take us to the end of the whole semester. Hard to believe. We are going to talk about, excuse me, I dropped my marker. We're going to talk about bucket lists. All right? We're going to talk about, first of all, what are they? And who has them? And are they helpful? And how do we actually make bucket list items happen? Okay? What are they? Who has them? Are they helpful? And how do we actually make bucket list items happen? I think that when we were talking about euphemisms for death, one of the ones that I gave you was kick the bucket. Do you remember that? I think I'm correct that I gave that to you. That is a humorous way that Americans might refer to death. He kicked the bucket. She kicked the bucket. Now, this has an origin in probably a couple of different places. One is you kick the bucket over and everything in the bucket spills out. It's empty, okay? And that can be sort of an image for the end of life. It's done, okay? Life is over, you've emptied the bucket, all right? Another place that this may have originated, the idea of the bucket, is kind of a sad, I guess, really sad, almost gross idea of back in the days when people would be hung for committing a crime or something. And oftentimes when the hanging would occur, the person would drop and there would be a bucket beneath their feet, and they would drop, hit the bucket, and that's when the sound would, people around who are watching and listening would hear the bucket being hit, and they would know that that person was now hung and most likely dead. Okay, so not very pleasant. But anyway, that's where bucket comes from, kicking the bucket. So in regards to a bucket list then, and I believe you all have referred to bucket lists before, I think you know what they are, but just to be sure, a bucket list would be that list of things that you have that you want to do before you die. So it's, I don't like to think about that end part, but the list before that, I think, is kind of a cool thing. I have a bucket list. Mine is not done in writing. You may have one that is in writing. I have some things on my bucket list that have been accomplished and quite a few that haven't been. My bucket list seems to change quite often as well. Some things that at one point in time I thought were important, now maybe are not as important to me. My priorities change, and I'm sure the same with you. Sometimes circumstances cause us to change our bucket lists. Goodness, coronavirus probably got in the way of a lot of people's bucket list. If they were planning to make a trip that was a once-in-a-lifetime thing, and it was during March or April or May or whatever, they may not have been able to make that trip. And that item on their bucket list will not be checked off. What we're going to be looking at in the next section is not only more specifically what bucket lists are, but the psychology that is behind bucket lists and who has them. Again, some of that psychology, some of the research that has been done about the kinds of people who make bucket lists. And it's interesting research because not just everybody does it. And researchers, particularly psychologists and health professionals, social workers, ministers, these folks have researched then the benefits, whether or not bucket lists are helpful to people, and then how do people go about making these things happen in their lives if they feel that they're things that they really want to do that are very meaningful. How do they make that a priority? So I'll be sharing with you some research, which I thought was kind of interesting about this topic, and then we'll go a little bit further into this. I would also like to ask you, if you see the video, first of all, and would be so willing, I would love for you just to text to the class. We can just use the video thread that you've been using, but just text whether you have a bucket list or not. If you have one, if you would share, your top one or two things on your bucket list. I would love for you to do that. I would appreciate that. And everybody would enjoy seeing that, I think. All right, I will see you in session 2. Thanks.